Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. In the news today, a landmark religious liberties ruling from the High Court. The Supreme Court rules in favor of the former high school football coach fired for praying on the field after games.
The First Amendment means that people of faith can be people of faith. They don't need to choose between the job that they love and their faith to stay employed.
Tragedy in Texas. More than 40 people found dead near or inside a tractor trailer.
We're not supposed to open up a truck and see stacks of bodies in there. None of us come to work imagining that.
Trigger laws in several states banning or limiting abortion after the High Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Abortion rights activists are now taking action to stop them. We sit down with the governor to talk about the Supreme Court's decision and the fallout.
Many years ago, the court made the wrong decision. This is rectifying that and allowing states to stand for what their values and beliefs really are.
She's also talking about her new book, Not My First Rodeo, Lessons from the Heartland. And mass shootings in America spark talk of better mental health services. But many don't want to admit they need the help.
We do the counseling here. That's the unique part about it. We do the counseling here in the church. So we try to take away that stigma.
All these stories and more coming up next from the CBN Newsroom.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We want to begin this half hour with another landmark religious liberties ruling from the High Court, this time protecting a high school football coach's right to pray. It is the fourth time this term the court's conservative majority has ruled in favor of religious rights, rewriting decades of precedent regarding the role of church and state. Caitlin Burke joins us now from the Supreme Court with our top story.
Both sides of Kennedy versus Bremerton School District argued their case all comes down to the First Amendment. In the end, the majority ruling in favor of individual freedom over government censorship.
The First Amendment means that people of faith can be people of faith. They don't need to choose between the job that they love and their faith to stay employed.
In 2015, the Bremerton School District in Washington State fired Coach Joseph Kennedy for praying on the 50-yard line after football games. Their concern? That allowing those prayers to go on would come across as a state endorsement of his religion. Kennedy's lawyers pointed to both the free exercise and free speech clauses of the Constitution to protect the coach's right to pray. The High Court agreed. Justice Neil Gorsuch, writing for the majority, said, quote, "Respect for religious expressions is indispensable to life in a free and diverse republic, whether those expressions take place in a sanctuary or on a field, and whether they manifest through the spoken word or a bowed head."
What I think we saw Justice Gorsuch say so well today is that you cannot use, school districts cannot use the Establishment Clause to censor the free exercise clause, as they've done so many times, too many times in the last many years now.
In her dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor accused the court of eroding religious liberty for all by elevating the religious rights of a school official over those of his students. Monday's ruling also had major implications on the so-called Lemon test. For decades in religious liberty cases, the Supreme Court referred to a ruling from 1971, Lemon versus Kurtzman, as a framework for dealing with separation of church and state under the First Amendment. Now, experts say that complicated legal standard has essentially been eliminated, meaning courts will no longer necessarily favor secular interests over religious ones.
I think it's very clear that the Lemon test is now no longer good law, that instead we're going to look at the unique facts and history, the circumstances that has welcomed religion in the public square throughout our country's history.
Coach Kennedy told CBN News his faith has sustained him through a long legal battle. Now he's ready to get back out on the field.
My faith has grown so much, not just in God and the closeness of that, but the faith through my family. We've become a lot tighter as a family as Christians, and also everybody in the nation. It's just great to see how God works in these ways.
4 decisions remain to be announced by the High Court this term, including Biden versus Texas, an immigration case which addresses the Remain in Mexico policy. As of now, Wednesday is the last decision day on the calendar. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Turning now to a tragedy unfolding in Texas. At least 46 people were found dead near or inside a tractor trailer in a case suspected to be human smuggling. San Antonio police say the bodies were packed together in the trailer. Some of them were children. 16 people were still alive but suffering from heat exhaustion as temperatures climbed to more than 100 degrees.
No signs of water in the vehicle. It was a refrigerated tractor trailer, but there was no visible working AC unit on that rig.
Police say it appears the people were trying to jump out of the tractor trailer because some of those who were found dead were found alongside several blocks. Right now, 3 people have been taken into custody, but it is not clear if they're connected to human trafficking. An Amtrak train in Missouri derailed after hitting a truck, killing 3 people and injuring dozens more. The train was carrying more than 270 passengers to Chicago when the train hit a dump truck at a railroad crossing, derailing 8 passenger cars and turning the train on its side. Passengers on the train described the terrifying moments.
There was dust and dirt everywhere. I was on the side of the train that hit the ground first, and so everybody on the other side fell on top of us.
Seats were coming apart, bags were going everywhere. And then after it stopped, you could smell the fumes, and so people started panicking, thinking it was going to catch fire. So we tried to get out as quick as possible.
As emergency workers rushed to the scene, 16 Boy Scouts on the train jumped into action to help administer first aid to the victims. More than 40 people are now hospitalized, and an investigation is taking place to determine exactly what went wrong. Now, developments with the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. New legal battles are now being fought in several states. More than a dozen states already had trigger laws in place which immediately banned or limited abortion once Roe v. Wade was overturned. Judges in Utah and Louisiana temporarily blocked the trigger laws from taking effect in those states, as abortion rights activists say they need more time for courts to hear the challenges.
And get patients to care. We have to fight state by state now in order to make sure that people can get that.
Right now, pharmacies nationwide are placing limits on the emergency Plan B contraceptive as demand surges in the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling. Volunteers from around the world are coming to the aid of Ukrainians who fled the fighting. In Poland, a team from CBN's Operation Blessing is helping provide supplies to a woman who opened her home to more than 50 refugees. CBN's Lucille Toulousan reports.
Anna Ponomazenko shares how difficult it was to leave her husband and son before crossing the border to Poland.
We were all crying. My husband was crying, but the Russians were shooting, so we had to leave fast.
They left because their hometown is now occupied by the Russians.
I decided to flee Ukraine because many children are being abused by Russian soldiers. Many children also lost their arms and limbs in the bombing. My husband and oldest son are left in our house to guard it against the looting by the Russian soldiers. I miss the times when we were happy, just being together as a family.
Anna, her teenage daughter, and 2 boys now live with 15 families in this shelter. Alexandra told CBN News that just a few hours after they arrived in the shelter, they received the horrible news that their house in Kharkiv was bombed.
It is really very sad when I think that we don't have our house to go back to in Ukraine. I realized that life is too short and that we should make the most out of it.
I want Russia stop this war.
Me too. I want Russia to stop this war, and I want to come to my home, meet up with my friends and my family. I want them to be alive.
Many refugees have returned to Ukraine to stay with family members who live far from the war zone. But there's still a big number of them who live in shelters here in Poland. Some of these shelters are owned by private individuals like Maria Moroczkowska, who opened her home to 52 refugees.
When I lost my husband last year, I was so depressed and I was advised to travel and take a vacation. But when the war broke out, I decided to use my money to help the refugees.
Maria provided comfortable beds and used her resources to feed them. Soon, her supplies began to run out. When Operation Blessing learned about her needs, they brought her much-needed food like pasta, rice, canned goods, cooking oil, flour, hygiene, and cleaning supplies. OB also helped other shelters like the one helping Anna, Veronica, and Alexandra.
I feel more inspired when people from different countries come to help. Thank you for all that you do.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Rzeszów, Poland.
Coming up, we're sitting down with South Dakota's Governor KRISTI NOEM as she talks about the abortion ruling from the United States Supreme Court and her new memoir. Stay with us for that and more when we come back. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. South Dakota Governor KRISTI NOEM had a goal to be the most pro-life governor of any state. Even before the Supreme Court's decision, she was working to make South Dakota a place where life is celebrated. Now the governor has a new book. It is called Not My First Rodeo, Lessons from the Heartland. And she joined this week's Prayer Link to talk about the Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade and about her memoir. Take a look.
Hello, Governor. Great to see you again.
Hello. It's great to be with all of you.
Well, before we get into your new book, which, by the way, I could not put down, want to get your reaction to this historic decision by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I think that this is the decision that so many people have prayed for so many years. It's wonderful to see, and what this will do will return this decision and policy back to the states. You know, many years ago, the court made the wrong decision. This is rectifying that and allowing states to stand for what their values and beliefs really are. So in South Dakota today, we had a trigger law in place that our state statute said that abortion would be outlawed in our state as soon as this decision was made, except to save the life of the mother. So currently in South Dakota today, that's where we are, and we're just so grateful that every life is precious and it's being recognized in this country.
And Governor, you certainly made headlines over the weekend when you were on Face the Nation talking about doctors who perform abortions in your state. Talk a little bit about what will happen to them if they do perform an abortion or try to.
Well, I think a lot of people are worried about how this treats women and mothers. And I wanted to be very clear that in South Dakota, our law states that it will never be mothers that are prosecuted for getting an abortion. It will be the doctors who knowingly break the law and perform abortions in the state of South Dakota. So yes, that's where the punishment would lie. And I think it's good to be very clear on this. We can now, as a pro-life community, turn to supporting women and mothers through this, connecting them with different resources they may need to get health care, financial assistance, connecting them to adoptive families who may want to make an opportunity for them to raise a baby that was unplanned for someone that's in a very different situation. So that's something that I focused on, put out a website that I launched called life.sd.gov. And it is putting all those resources in one location so that women that are in a situation where they have an unplanned pregnancy really can understand the kind of support that they have around them.
Awesome. Governor, your first book, Not My First Rodeo, is out today. Focuses so much on your life growing up on a farm and helping your dad, who tragically died at just 49 years old in a farm accident. How did you get through that time, and what life-changing decisions did you have to make at just 22 years old?
Well, you know, at the time that Dad was killed on our land in South Dakota, it was very difficult for our family. You know, so I remember when that happened. Of course, I'd already been married for a couple of years. I was 8 months pregnant when Dad was killed, and I had no idea how we were even going to get through the next 24 hours. So to really try to get through that situation, and we had a very large operation, many different businesses, but also he was my best friend. He was someone that I looked up to and wanted to spend the rest of my life in business working side by side with him. So I would say for us and our family, it was about our faith and understanding that we had God by our side and walking with us and would see us through those challenging times, but also having our family around us as well. My sister and two brothers and my mom, we spent virtually every day together during those times, just focusing on work, focusing on our faith, and just understanding we had a lot of challenges in front of us, but we still were incredibly blessed.
Praise God. And Governor, what are some of the lessons you learned from growing up on the farm that are still with you today and have helped you even as a politician?
Oh, well, my dad's number one thing he said all the time was, we don't complain about things, we fix them. And we weren't a political family at all. I tell people quite often, we didn't talk about government or politics. We just lived it. So, you know, that was part of it, is to always be a part of the solution. The fact that I'm in this job today is very strange for my family. There's nobody else who's in an elected office. So I think that those values I was taught growing up are extremely useful in public office. We also had a grandmother that said to say yes to things. A lot of people in this country say no, they don't have time, they're too busy, they don't get involved. And we were always told that, yes, you need to always step up to the plate, be a part of whatever organization is asking for help, whatever family needs someone to do something for them, to be somebody who approached life saying yes. So I would say that, you know, these tasks and these stories I tell in the book are incredibly challenging. You know, many times driving tractors, chasing cows, whatever it was. But Dad raised a bunch of problem solvers. You know, he put impossible things in front of us to do. But when we figured it out and got it done, it built our confidence, and we were more able to go into the next challenge feeling like we could handle it.
Governor, you just announced you'll be running for another term as South Dakota's governor, but some are hopeful you'll consider a run for the White House or even vice president. What would it take for that to happen?
Oh, you know, I'm very focused on staying in South Dakota. I'm hoping the people there will support me to lead the state for another 4 years. You know, I love this country. I'll always do all I can to protect it and keep it as wonderful as a country that I had the chance to grow up in, especially for my kids and my granddaughter. But I definitely am hoping that whatever comes for our country, that it has God's blessings and hand on it. So
awesome.
Those jobs are hard to imagine.
Praise God. Well,
awesome.
Governor KRISTI Noem's new book is called Not My First Rodeo, Lessons from the Heartland, and it is available wherever books are sold. Governor, thank you so much for your time. God bless you.
God bless you.
Oh, thank you. You too.
You can catch Prayer Link on the CBN News Channel at 6:30 Eastern on the CBN News app. Still ahead, we're going to take a look at what the church is doing to help those dealing with mental health issues. We got the story for you when we come back. Stay with us. Mass shootings in our country have led to talk of the need for better mental health services, but some people are reluctant to admit they're dealing with mental health issues. Medical reporter Lori Johnson shows us how some churches are making it easier for people to share their struggles and to seek help.
In the name of Jesus.
Dr. Tama Bryant, an ordained minister and clinical psychologist, knows firsthand how Christians can spiral into despair.
These things happen even within the church.
In her book, Homecoming, Dr. Bryant describes overcoming her trauma from sexual assault and keeping her faith by using therapeutic approaches, including one of her favorites, praise dance.
Some survivors get to a place where they hate their bodies because it's the place of the violation. But this is really a gift from God. And so to be able to reclaim it, to honor it, to move our bodies, to dance to the glory of God has been a wonderful part of my healing.
As president-elect of the American Psychological Association, Dr. Bryant says the church needs to create a culture where people can admit they're struggling and seek help.
I know in my church tradition, when people say, "How are you?" the usual answer is blessed, or "I'm blessed and highly favored." And so we want to get to a place where people can say, "I'm blessed, and what is the rest of the story? What is the fuller story?"
The tide is starting to change.
While many churches are beginning to signal to their members that it's okay to struggle with mental health issues, some are taking it a step further by developing ministries to help people with these types of problems.
At New Life Virginia Beach, Dr. Cyrus Williams leads a team of Christian professionals who treat people in the comfort of their own church.
Because we do the counseling here. That's the unique part about it. We do the counseling here in the church. So we try to take away that stigma.
Demand is high given the growing number of those struggling with depression and anxiety.
And then we get into addiction counseling. We may go into more of some trauma that people are dealing with spiritual trauma, sexual trauma, any kind of violence. And then suicide is a big issue.
While counseling can be affordable for some, the goal is to make it achievable for all who need it.
To get to a nominal pay, we need really donations for people to donate salaries. We have people, if they donate money for a salary, we can see so many more people.
The ministry has become a natural progression because of the positive path pastors have taken from the pulpit regarding mental health issues.
We, as pastors, recognize we're not clinicians. We don't provide mental health care, but we do recognize that it is an essential part of being whole before the Lord. And so we want to partner with those who are professionals, just like we would partner with a doctor who is a professional in dealing with cancer or other sicknesses.
New Life Church also hosts mental health forums and seminars.
And so we wanted to make sure that our congregants, our leaders, were equipped to be able to recognize symptoms of people who are struggling with mental health issues and could then refer them or get them the help that they need.
So while mental health problems within the church can still be considered taboo, more leaders are trying to erase the shame so people can get the help they need. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
An uplifting message for your day when we come back. Stay with us. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable. I pray this message blesses you and that you will post, tag, tweet, and share it with those in your circles of influence. God is not calling you to merely exist. He's calling you to live, and your living is meant to be abundant and full. Take a look at your schedule, your routine, your day-to-day. I pray it is more than wake, work, eat, sleep, and repeat. God is calling you to fully live, and He wants you to do it today. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online at cbnnews.com. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make this a terrific Tuesday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.